Donald Trump is not staging a coup, and he never was. Donald Trump is a distraction. Donald Trump is a loudmouthed charlatan. Donald Trump is where they want you to look so that you're not looking at the guy who's taking over the Treasury and dismantling the government from the inside out. Do we just stand and watch this happen? I'm so tired, and that's on purpose. I'm so tired, and I will not look away. They want us disengaged. They want us distracted. Don't let them take your attention away from this. The fate of our country literally depends on it. This is not a fucking joke anymore.
Somebody out there has a recording of Trump in the frame while Elon threw the salute to him. If that person is you, you are sitting on gold. Post it. I triple dog dare you.
I am a National Park Ranger. I was fired by Donald Trump. When you go on vacation this summer, I hope there are no forest fires, because I and thousands of my coworkers, other National Park Ranger and National Forest Service members, won't be there to help put out the fires. So good luck with that.
Y'all keep comparing Trump to Jesus Christ. You nailed that on a cross, and if he comes back in 3 days, I'll believe you.
Hamilton, do you like Donald Trump?
Hello there. It's Monday night at about 10 p.m. Here's what has been happening in the Trump's administration and the United States. On February 21st, 2025, the governor of Maine, Janet Mills, openly and publicly pushed back on President Donald Trump at the White House during the regular meeting of all the nation's governors. The exchange between the president and the governor was over the president's executive order banning trans athletes from competing in the women's sports. The whole drama ended up with President Donald Trump threatening to withhold federal fundings to the state, and the governor threatening him to see him in court. Take a look at this.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is the Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Well, I'm here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
The reason why I'm sharing this with you all is because of the tactics that the president has been using for a while now. I want you to know that he did the same thing in his first term, and now he's doing it again in his second term. What tactics, you might ask? Well, the tactics of withholding federal funds from a state that doesn't comply with him, and especially his executive orders. Do you all remember that he recently did the same thing with the governor of California, that is, threatening to withhold funds to his state during the LA wildfires? But in reality, the president cannot follow through with such threats, because the Constitution of the United States squarely puts the power of the purse in the hands of the Congress, not the president. The Congress decides how federal monies are spent, not the president. Also, it appears that a lot of states are currently invoking their 10th Amendment rights against the Trump's administration. The 10th Amendment rights puts a hard limit on the powers of the federal government, saying that the only authority that the federal government has is listed in the Constitution, and any power not granted to the federal government specifically in the Constitution are squarely given to the states and their people. So what are we saying? Well, what we're saying is, at the end of the day, all the lawsuits filed against Trump's administration are likely going to end up coming down to the Supreme Courts for final decisions. These are some of the comments posted in the comment section of this video. This person said, publicly threatening a Democratic elected governor for everyone to see. I genuinely don't think I will ever understand how someone can support him, let alone contribute in what he is doing, and praise him for all of it. Asinine, and always will be. President Trump and Elon Musk are going to Fort Knox. President Trump said he wants to see the gold at Fort Knox, while Elon Musk promised to live stream Fort Knox audit amid mounting questions over U.S. gold reserves. The last time we had a president visit Fort Knox was in 1953. It was President Dwight Eisenhower, and he conducted a full Fort Knox audit. The last event was in 2017 with the previous Secretary of Treasury, Steven Mnuchin, alongside with Mitch McConnell. According to reports, we have about 56% of our gold reserve in Fort Knox, which equates to about $290 billion. For those of you that don't know, there's a lot of questions related to the US dollar today. However, if you go back to the history of 1971 of converting the gold standard to the currency fiat, it was because A, the world economy was growing rapidly, B, the US dollar was more appealing and desirable as far as overvalued towards dollar, and we were beginning to see inflation. But guess what? The US dollar is currently backed by nothing but by public trust, and it appears that doesn't exist anymore.
We're also going to Fort Knox. I'm going to go with Elon. And would anybody like to join us? Because we want to see if the gold is still there. We want to see. Wouldn't that be terrible? We open up this Fort Knox. It's just solid granite that's 5 feet thick. Wouldn't that be terrible if we opened it up and there was no gold there? So we're going to open those doors. We're going to take a look. And if there's 27 tons of gold, we'll be very happy. I don't know how the hell we're going to measure it, but that's okay. We want to see lots of nice, beautiful, shiny gold in Fort Knox. Don't be totally surprised. We open the door. We'll say, there's nothing here. They stole this too.
Well, Donald Trump made history today, and so today became a day that will live in infamy in presidential history, because today Donald Trump formally rejected the position that every American president has held since Franklin Delano Roosevelt masterminded the American victory in World War II. Leader of the free world. That is what Franklin Roosevelt turned the job of the presidency into during World War II. Every subsequent president until Donald Trump fulfilled that role, especially at the United Nations. The United Nations began in the imagination of President Roosevelt. While President Roosevelt was making the key strategic decisions leading to victory in World War II, he was also planning the aftermath of the war. He was planning the peace. That's the way he talked about it, planning the peace. During the war, he sometimes referred to America and its allies in the war as the United Nations. He didn't live to see his design of the United Nations come true. But when the United Nations was organized after World War II, it was basically the Franklin Roosevelt design. And every day at the United Nations throughout its history, the American president's ambassador to the United Nations always stood on the side of freedom. The United States of America in the United Nations voted with the free nations of the world against the cruelest dictatorships in the world, which almost always meant voting against the Soviet Union. In the 21st century, as Russian President Vladimir Putin began turning the Russian government into a dictatorship again, the United States leadership of the free world at the United Nations meant standing against Russian aggression. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, exactly 3 years ago on this day, the United Nations passed 6 resolutions against the Russian attack on Ukraine. And the United States voted with the free world against the Russian war on Ukraine every single time until today. The United Nations once again today approved a resolution condemning Russia's war against Ukraine, and for the first time in history, the United States did not stand on the side of freedom in the United Nations. The United States, for the first time in history, voted with the dictator against the free world. Donald Trump voted with Vladimir Putin in the United Nations, and so it's official. It really is. As of today, if there's a leader of the free world, it is not the President of the United States. It might be the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, who played an important role in presidential history today, making Donald Trump the first president in history who had to be interrupted and corrected by an ally when the President of the United States was lying, and lying about that ally. General Charles de Gaulle, who became the President of France after World War II, may have been the most egotistical elected president anywhere in the world. Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt couldn't stand de Gaulle during World War II. But they knew they had to deal with him, and they never had public disagreements with General Charles de Gaulle. Emmanuel Macron may be one of the least egotistical French presidents in history, but today it was the mild-mannered French president who had to interrupt the blustering President of the United States when the President of the United States was lying. And it fell to the French president to correct the American president in a way we have never seen an American president corrected before by another head of state or by anyone. Donald Trump did his standard lie about Europe's aid to Ukraine, the lie that Europe has loaned money to Ukraine, and it's a loan, and Ukraine has to pay it back. Donald Trump became the first American president in history fully humiliated on the world stage by instantly getting caught and corrected in his lie.
Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear, okay. We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day, in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day, and Russia would have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me. But they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But, you know, that's only fair.
He actually reached out, President of France reached out, grabbed the arm of the American president to stop him from telling a lie about France and the rest of the countries of Europe. So Donald Trump's response to being corrected on his lie was to simply tell the lie again. They get their money back. When President Macron finished speaking, Donald Trump just told the lie again. So on the day when Donald Trump officially sinks the presidency on the international stage lower than it has ever been, by not only surrendering leadership of the free world at the United Nations, but standing against the free world, then right there in the Oval Office, Donald Trump is humiliated and exposed in a way that no previous president ever could be, because no previous president would be pathological enough to try to tell a lie like that right in front of the person he's lying about. And no previous president could possibly be stupid enough to try to tell a lie like that. But As our first guest tonight has written, quote, "The divide in politics today is between unreality and reality."
Developing tonight, a deadline at this hour for millions of federal workers that Elon Musk ordered them to justify their continued employment in writing by 9 p.m. Pacific or risk losing their jobs. And KCAL News political reporter Tom Wade is here. Tom, you got the latest.
Yeah, you know, Pat, I think the tensions and the stress for these workers, it's really reaching an all-time high, right? Because there's just so much uncertainty at this point. So the deadline, as Pat just said, was supposed to be tonight at midnight. But there's a lot of confusion because Musk on social media appeared to back down from that deadline. But then President Trump from the Oval Office voiced his support for Musk's email.
I thought it was great.
President Trump doubling down on his support for Elon Musk and Musk's unprecedented move of emailing more than 2 million government employees with an ultimatum: reply and justify why you should keep your job or you're fired.
So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working?
Adding to the chaos, the email was sent on Saturday when many workers are off. Musk told the rank and file they'd have to share what they got done last week. Failure to respond, he said, will be taken as a resignation. It's something Musk also asked Twitter employees to do when he started layoffs there. A formal email from the Office of Personnel Management asked federal employees for replies by 11:59 Monday night, with approximately 5 bullets of what you accomplished last week.
I have not finished my reply as of yet. However,
Letitia Thompson is a Department of Veterans Affairs employee who received Musk's letter. She says it was a surprise.
Astonishment. I did not expect to be receiving an email, right? On Saturday, I'm not employed. My tour of duty is not at that time. And of course, I did not check my email to know, but, you know, I did find out through my colleagues.
Adding to the confusion was the decision by several of the largest federal departments to instruct workers not to comply. Loyola law professor Jessica Levinson.
What's really interesting is this email has created some internal divisions, some dissent from within, where you have different agencies and departments replying in different ways. And of course, the Trump administration wants a unified force. If something comes down from the Office of Personnel Management, they want it to be that all departments will follow that. So I think this internal division makes the email look like it set off chaos as opposed to leading to rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse.
Federal employees who receive the letter wonder who or what will read them. However this plays out, morale across government agencies appears to be taking a hit from those who received the email.
I found it to be very disrespectful and insulting. The federal workforce goes to work every single day and provide critical services to working families.
Trump today also claimed a lot of workers are not responding to Musk's email because, as the president put it, they don't exist, but neither does any evidence of the president's claim. Pat?